Okay, I know. I'm a little bit late, but I finally watched Spider-Man Brand New Day. And I know I'm always late to the party, but in my defense, I work a full-time job and I have a wife and kids, so I try to do this on the side when I can. However, if my dreams come true and I'm able to make a job out of this, then I promise I will get these out faster. However, this actually might be the fastest turnaround yet. So let's get into it. Now, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it yet, then go watch it and then come back and hear my very important opinions. I'll wait. Go ahead. I'll be here when you get back. It's okay. Now, I want to preface this with the fact that I actually enjoyed this movie. And I can't say that about a lot of Marvel projects lately, but this was actually a good movie. Now, don't get me wrong, I definitely had my problems with it and some very significant problems, but I want to start off with the positive. First things first, the story flowed very well. When I saw kind of all the subplots going on, I was a little bit worried that it wouldn't make that much sense, but it was really good. Coming off of No Way Home, they did a good job at showing the battle between Peter Parker and Spider-Man. As you remember, Peter Parker made everyone forget who he was. With that, he starts to battle his loneliness. And that's a huge topic in today's day and age, especially amongst young people. He has to deal with isolation and he buries himself in work. And of course, for Peter Parker, that work is being Spider-Man, which was super exciting because we got to see him as Spider-Man a lot. This wasn't a Peter Parker movie. This was a Spider-Man movie. Like I said, there was a lot of subplots going on, but none of them felt like they were competing with one another. And in the end, they kind of all tied together for one bigger coming-of-age story for Peter Parker. Graduating high school can be hard for a lot of people. Losing friends, and in Peter's case, a mystical wizard casting a spell that wipes everyone's memory of who you are. Relatable, am I right? He watches his friends move on with their lives through social media, not even knowing who he is. He's constantly being reminded of the weight of what he lost, which brings me to my first criticism, and that is that they completely just put everything back to normal, allowing Ned and MJ to remember him. I think they could have dove more into the story of moving on from the old and into the new, the evolution of Peter Parker. They could have allowed him to make new friends like Harry Osborn or Mary Jane, Gwen Stacy, Felicia. They could have done a really cool story where what if that girl that was like, hey, we live on the same floor, was Felicia, and then turns out he's fighting his neighbor because she's the cat burglar of Black Cat. I think that would have been kind of cool. I just think they undermine the message of the coming of age story when they just give him his old friends back and he continues on building Legos and stuff. It didn't feel like they completed the coming of age story. It might be the case that Zendaya and our favorite CEO are under contract for more movies, but it just feels like the story of growing up and becoming a new man would have hit so much harder if it showed him losing his friends and, having to move on. It just didn't hit as hard after they got their memory back, Speaking of evolution, they kind of hit on the idea of Man Spider, which I thought they were going to fully go for it, turn him into the monster Man Spider, or at least give him 6 arms or something like that, the halfway evolution. But they don't do that. He realizes that his spider genes are taking over, and he builds an inhibitor, which comes in handy later when fighting the bad guy. So as he is fighting for things to stay the same, we get introduced to the antagonist, which is probably the hardest part of the movie to get on board with, because the reveal that the villain is Jean Grey. I know the director is trying to say that it's morally gray, but in all honesty, she's just a bad guy. She starts to control people's minds in order to save her sister, who was taken by damage control, but she's attacking innocent people and throwing them in front of cars and getting them run over. she's just killing people and for no reason. Like, none of these people have anything to do with her sister being kidnapped. The movie would have been 10 times better if she was like legitimately only hurting Damage Control, the government entity that kidnapped and killed her sister, but she has a lot of collateral damage in this movie. Now, I was fine with this as I was watching it because I thought they were going to give her a redemption arc, but they don't. She just is allowed into Spider-Man's mind and sees Aunt May giving the speech about how she's loved and that she's not loved because she's special, but they love her because of who she is.
You is kind, you is smart, you is important.
And then she like lets go all the hostages. And I would have even been fine if when she took over those miles of New York, if they showed that like, oh, she's losing control, she doesn't know she's doing that, but she good and well knows that she's taking over all those people. And when Spider-Man's trying to stop her, she even says, you stop right there or I'll kill them. I'll kill all of them. And then it zooms out to like the miles and miles of New York that she took over. It would have even been better if she like realized the error of her ways and turned herself over. And I know that like it'd be kind of hard to turn herself into the government when the government were the ones like doing experiments and stuff. But I think there's lots of other agencies that we can trust more. Like maybe she turns herself into the Avengers or S.H.I.E.L.D., not Damage Control for the error of her ways. And then maybe we even see Charles Xavier coming to the Avengers and being like, hey, yo, she's a mutant. Can she come with us or something like that? You know what I mean? Like there's lots of ways they could have given her a redemption arc and helped her to redeem herself, but they don't do that. She just kills innocent people and then gets on a bus and drives away. And that's kind of it. And I firmly believe the ends do not justify the means. So if you hear all these people being like, oh, but she's abandoned and, the world turned her back on her. Her mother gave her up in the foster care system. Like, you give me all these sob stories. I do not care. The ends don't justify the means. You can't just kill innocent people to get what you want. Again, would have been fine if she went after Damage Control and Damage Control only, but she didn't do that. She used innocent people to get what she wants, and that's just wrong. And so I think that they should have gave her more redemption rather than just let her get away. For this movie in a vacuum, it works. But trying to introduce the X-Men into the MCU, I think they're going to have a lot of problems because the X-Men should and are a superhero team. So, like, she's kind of a villain portrayed in this movie. So they need to figure out some way to redeem her going forward because they didn't do that in this movie. Now, zooming out from the deep story plot stuff, I just want to talk about the things that I absolutely loved seeing on the big screen. Number one, the web swinging and the fight scenes felt like they were straight out of the Spider-Man games, which I have spent way too much time playing, getting them all to completion, like every single side mission done, like even the DLCs. I've played those games so much, and so it was so cool seeing that on the big screen. I also loved John Bernthal's Punisher and his interactions with Spider-Man. I thought it was so cool. I love the Punisher series. This was obviously like a PG-13 version of that Punisher, but there were so many cool parts seeing Spider-Man interact with Frank Castle. One of my favorite parts that I wish they would have dove a little bit deeper into was the part where they're talking and then Punisher is like, you think this is a lifestyle, kid? This is a sentence for me. Like, I just felt like that was such a Punisher line, such a mic drop line. And they could have like got a little bit more into the character of Punisher, but you can't fit everything into a movie. There's no perfect movies, just non-critically thinking people who give movies perfect ratings. So, but also the scene where he's fighting Hulk and Spider-Man webs him and he's like pulling him and there's just a slow motion shot of Bernthal just like screaming and shooting the Hulk. That was so funny. I loved every second of this. This was really cool. Now let's get into the less favorable parts. I didn't like how the hand was just willingly working for Damage Control. And and they try to explain like, oh, they were just misguided guys, and we got them on our side now. Like, that was so dumb. I rolled my eyes in the theater when I saw that. I was like, what is going on here? I didn't like the fact that MJ was the one to solve the problem with the inhibitor, because she was going to study biochemistry but didn't. Like, what do you mean you thought about studying something so now you're an expert in it? That made no sense. I didn't like the small potatoes, big potatoes line. That was so dumb. Like, Spider-Man fought in Endgame. What do you mean he's small potatoes? Come on now. You just became Black Widow because of Thunderbolts. Like, if anyone's small potatoes, it's you. Speaking of Yelena, she straight up Me Too Spider-Man. Like, she made him strip down and get into the hot spring with her. And she even said something like, it's my office, my rules, take your clothes off. I was like, what the heck are we doing here? Like, what is going on? Like, why is this allowed? Like, did this really make it past that many people without being like, hey, this might be problematic a little bit? The last part that didn't make that much sense to me is that Frank Castle, the Punisher, was just able to walk around in broad daylight without anybody. Like, he's still like a super wanted vigilante. So, like, why is he just walking around in broad daylight? Walks into a hospital and sits there with Spider-Man. Like, the government's not coming after him anymore? Like, what's going on? But with all its flaws, I did really like the movie. I had a lot of fun watching it. The main things I would change is, one, like I said, make Peter Parker move on from his old friends, because I think it tells a better story. And two, I would not make Jean Grey a cold, heartless murderer. I know they want to set up the X-Men, and they're probably going to want to set up the X-Men being hated and feared like they are so often. But they could have done that by keeping everything the same, minus killing innocent people and throwing them off buildings and such. Like, she didn't have to take over Zendaya's mind and kind of like make Peter kiss her and stuff, and then like try to throw her off a building. That was just crazy. That was madness. It's like they wrote this villain as a different person, and then they were just like, let's introduce X-Men, so let's make that villain Jean Grey. Like, that's what it felt like. They just like shoehorned her in there, and so it doesn't make sense as Jean Grey, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. Let me know yours in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.